and we would urge Israel to stop now in terms of the military operation in Rafah. We need an immediate ceasefire. We need the unconditional release of all hostages, and we need a massive surge in aid into Gaza. From our perspective as three countries, and indeed the European Union itself, we are strong supporters of multilateralism and of the multilateral institutions and of international humanitarian law. And we have to robustly defend and uphold the independence of the International Court of Justice and indeed the ICC. And I think this is a moment in time in global affairs where the essential centrality, if you like, of these institutions must be upheld and their independence. And it has been a tendency of Israel to undermine UN institutions, but also to undermine the international humanitarian legal system. And the court's ruling is binding. It's extremely important that we stand up for the independence of the court and support the court in this vital matter.
Can I just add one reflection which I think is essential here, which is that there is a perception in large parts of the world of double standards, that rules are applied to some but not everybody. I think that critique is founded on some realities, and I understand why that perception has been created. And that perception undermines the credibility of the international legal system in general. So it's a serious problem for all of us, because the impression created is that these norms are not, does not apply to everybody, and many people will say then they do not apply to anyone. So I think this is also standing up for the principles that we have agreed to in the world. Remember, the International Court of Justice is everybody's court. The ICC is 124 countries, but the International Court of Justice is the principal organ of the UN. Every member of the UN is bound by the decision of the International Court of Justice.
Yesterday's bombing is one more day with innocent Palestinian civilians being killed. This stresses what we have been calling, the three of us, our three countries, for a long time, that it's an immediate ceasefire. But the gravity is even larger because it comes after a decision taken by the International Court of Justice that, once again, I want to recall, that are binding and compulsory for all parties. Therefore, for Israel, that is calling to stop this attack on Rafah. I think that this time we have to raise our voice not only for an immediate ceasefire, but also to back international law and the United Nations Charter. I want to recall that the International Court of Justice is a founding body of the United Nations Charter. We are going to have a Foreign Affairs Council of Ministers of Foreign Affairs of European Union, and I'm going to ask the other 26 partners to declare the backing to the ICJ, to its decision, and also, if Israel continues to pursue against that opinion of the International Court of Justice, that we try to take the right measure to enforce that decision and to back one of the most important bodies of the UN Charter.
Thank you. And one last question, Tony.
Thank you very much. Taoiseach, Irish Minister for Foreign Affairs, first of all, we saw the response of the Israeli government to the declaration last week of all three countries recognising the state of Palestine. We saw what some people have said was the humiliation of the Irish ambassador in Israel. I mean, do you think that that was done? And also we've seen the social media videos that were promoted by the Israeli foreign minister. Do you think that was done to try and discourage other EU member states from following suit? And are you hopeful that other member states could follow suit? And just to follow up on the last question, do you think if Israel does not comply with the ICJ decision of last week that sanctions should now be considered? Thank you.
Well, first of all, as I've said, the behaviours of the Israeli government in response to our decision to recognise the state of Palestine, I don't believe reflected well on Israel. and I think it was outside diplomatic norms in terms of how our diplomats were treated. And we will be communicating that directly to the Israeli government and to Foreign Minister Katz in particular. I've always treated people with respect, particularly diplomats who represent their governments and who are there to communicate respective positions on given situations. So we're very clear that we want to maintain diplomatic relations with Israel. Our measure and our decision is based on peace, as we've articulated, and a genuine view in terms of how strategically this issue can be progressed in terms of towards a two-state solution, Israelis and Palestinians living harmoniously together. So we're not going to be in any way sort of diverted away from the core objective of our decision to recognise a state of Palestine. I do expect that others will follow our decision to recognise Palestine. I don't wish to reference any country. That's a matter for other member states of the European Union. But I do believe others will follow. And thirdly, I do believe it's a very serious moment in terms of multilateralism and the multilateral system. The International Court of Justice has ordered Israel to stop. And I think that is fundamental in terms of how we all in the international community respond, including the European Union. It is in the context of a major conflict right now. Our immediate focus has to be the ending of the bombardment of Gaza, a ceasefire, the release of hostages, and a massive surge of humanitarian aid. But I think, as Jose and Epson said, there is we have to strongly uphold the international humanitarian legal system, and there has to be consistency in terms of how we apply it in Ukraine and elsewhere, and in terms of how we apply it in the context of this war on Gaza. Thank you very much.
Thank you.